Hello viewers. Well, EGX Rezzed took place last week, or a few days ago now, and I popped along to see some of the racing games in particular at the show. If you've not been to EGX Rezzed, it focuses, the core focus really is on indie gaming, and so I looked at some of the titles that are on display, but there were a few from big publishers here as well, and of course kicking off with the Porsche room, which was nice to see. Unusual to see a racing gaming section at the show, and of course they had everything Porsche in this room. Here we see Project Cars 2 Pro, or is it Project Cars Pro, running here of course on a rig with VR. I can't remember actually all the differences to do with this version, but it looked largely like Project Cars 2 to me. You guys can tell me otherwise, but there we are. There wasn't much to see in terms of filming it there. We had a bit of Forza Motorsport 7, a bit of Forza Horizon 4 with Porsches, you know, games have been out for a while, and you can see various people playing it and enjoying themselves there. Always looks fab. And of course Porsches in Dirt Rally 2.0, of course recently released. Rally round in a Porsche, or not even, and crash off into a tree. There's certainly a lot of action there, a lot of crashing. We had shock rods elsewhere at the show. It's from Green Man Gaming. This game is one I know Kevin's on top of this one, but it's a vehicle-based arena shooter, and certainly looking the part at the moment. So interesting to look at, something we'll look at later in the year. There's a couple of these around at the moment, and building all the time. I suppose they're trying to make a kind of battle royale driving, shooting, action game, but it's got wheels. They're driving around, they're blowing each other up. Everybody seems to be enjoying themselves here as well. And there's 25% off shock rods at greenmangaming.com/shock rods, so check that out as well. It's on the leaflet. Hopefully that will still apply. So not much other information on the game. I actually have the leaflet, and it really didn't have many bullet points. Of course, elsewhere at the show we had a Grip, which is continuing to see lots of updates since launch and continue to see improvements. More improvements apparently on the way, and we look forward to seeing what those are in a later build as well. Certainly everyone enjoying that. Always should. Grip is constantly being refined, and developers certainly have a passion for design and flair in bringing it all together. One of the other games that was more original at the show, of course, was Bus Simulator. Again, really following the standard of all the simulation games that are out there now. These simulation games have improved drastically in the last, you know, sort of 15 years really. I mean, since we simulator games many years ago were terrible graphics, very dull. As you can see here, environments were lovely, really nicely developed and put together, lots of spot effects and details, bringing quite a crowd actually. Bus Driver was surprisingly a game of the show for many people, and it always does surprise me, you know, the amount of people that are really into sort of the truck driving simulations. They have huge audiences now. Whether you've not tried these sims before and you've not felt the, dare I say, addictive qualities of running them, certainly they do capture you once you do get into it and you get your OCDs in terms of making sure you do a proper job. You do need to concentrate and drive it all properly. But everybody here, I mean, I feel that a show, it's really difficult to show a game like that at the show. You need more time. Elsewhere you had Pacer, and we've discussed this on the recent podcast. Pacer, the new name for Formula Fusion, and again various tracks are on display here. Early version on this early build, and looking very nice it was as well. Very much like Wipeout, dare I say it. I mean, we don't like to say it all the time in terms of comparing to other games, but it's so obviously like Wipeout, with the Designers Republic design, with the cold storage music, and of course you've got various ships and styles. Everything's very nicely styled and designed. The artistic approach to the game was wonderfully put together at this stage. There's still a lot of work being done, but in terms of the core ship designs and track design, there's a lot of work going into that, and we look forward to seeing more circuits on the final version. A couple of new circuits are in this build. We've got some footage of one of them that's coming up here, and I was just having a quick look at the ships, or craft, shall I say, that were available. And they had various sort of speed classes and stuff like this. I had a quick look at a fast speed class. This particular version was running with a low frame rate on this TV, and in the super speed class was difficult. So I played it onto the other. Apparently, it was to do with the TV screen, but it made it very difficult to play when you were racing at 1,000 miles an hour with a low frame rate. Suddenly everything becomes a lot more challenging. But either way, you can see for yourself, look really nice in terms of the overall visual effects, solidity of the environment, but the frame rate was choppy to say the least, and it was just sort of unplayable to an extent. So I decided to try one of the other screens they had on the stand, and then you see me here saying, right, let's try this. And as you can see, the game is instantly running way smoother on this particular screen, and it was just a first opportunity to try hands-on. What do we think firstly? Well, obviously the graphics looking good, the audio's going to be great. It's a shame about the music in the trailer because it didn't go with the game at all, didn't go with the trailer at all really. And whatever you think of the name, it's got to be Wipeout, hasn't it? It's got to look like Wipeout, feel like Wipeout. Seems to be what it's aiming for. It is not a great deal that differentiates it in many ways. You've got tracks here that we're going around this circuit. You know, it's nice, big views. Rocky circuit. We go through this sort of mine section. Don't know how I feel about that, the way the track disappears. I'm not so keen on that from a design perspective. I think it'd been better to have had a proper circuit going all the way around. When you think about a game, you think about Wipeout or something, you think about continuity. Is it they're building the track and they haven't finished building it, but they're having a race there? Why is it like that? What makes it the way it is? Does weather conditions affect it? There's lots of little things in terms of giving a circuit a life and an environment rather than just putting pieces together. So at the end of the day, from a design perspective, I'm still not entirely sold when tracks go incomplete like that. Next is the handling, which at the moment still very, for me, very, for want of a better word, angular. It doesn't feel like I'm floating on a cushion of air. It's very rigid in the way the craft moves, and it still has a tendency to turn the rear end out when you're turning into a corner rather than banking into a corner. The craft turns into a corner with the rear end hanging out there, and it made it means you kind of almost have to oversteer into the corner. Not necessarily as intuitive as I would like, but then again it all depends on the different craft, doesn't it? You know, different craft, different speed, different situations, and more practice required. So do bear in mind this is my one and only go. But learning the track, obviously no idea where to go, and literally just improving every lap, getting better and better, realising that my shield was wearing down on the final lap, and quickly realising, hang on a second, I need to be a bit more careful in terms of how I'm looking after myself in these various corners. But as you can see, getting better, using all that sort of Wipeout fandom and Redout fandom to improve my speed, and its daylight section I think looks very nice, in particular the way the lighting affects the environments, the track surface itself, really nice details there. Visually very nice. I mean, audio and visuals, it's a shame we can't hear the banging soundtrack that's being developed, because it really does add to it in terms of the atmosphere. And bear in mind again, this is still an early version, there's still a lot of work going into it. I look forward to seeing what they're going to have. I think it's 14 locations, 14 tracks, something like that. So a nice selection of circuits in there, plus a different craft, and no doubt other elements that they're going to reveal later. They're very excited about the scale of this game and the potential that it has to offer. So certainly, you know, an interesting one to look out for. And as a fan of the genre, I'm going to be putting a bit more time into this. But as you can see, I picked it up and was quickly able to fly pretty much okay. You know, I knew what I was doing, had control of the craft, and was using my air brakes, and all seemed pretty clear. So as a Wipeout fan, you'll pick this up and you'll be very quick on it from the off, and we look forward to seeing 60 frames per second gameplay on PS4 Pro and Xbox One X as well. So certainly some good stuff to look forward to there. So finishing with Pacer then, that wraps it up for the chat about EGX Rzzed. There wasn't much in the way of driving games there this year. It's pretty quiet. The show was a little bit smaller this year than it has been in previous years, which is a bit of a shame. I hope next year they can, you know, grow it back up again, because there was whole sections closed that were open in the past. But there were some great conferences and chats and stuff like that going on, lots of activity. But that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon.